My story starts with heartbreak, the kind that doesn't just sting, it shatters. See, my mother convinced my girlfriend to marry my brother. She told her he was stronger, more reliable, a better match. I was gone for just 3 weeks, working hard to build our future. And when I came back, everything I knew had changed. Back then, I was just a regular guy from a small town called Harriston, the kind of place where folks know your business before you do. I was 23, working at the local hardware store, stacking lumber, ringing up nails, and sharing polite small talk with people who remembered me in diapers. It wasn't anything special, but it paid the bills. And I had Leah. She was everything to me. Her dark hair, that laugh that made everything else fade into the background. We'd been together 2 years and I was saving up to buy her a ring. Nothing flashy, just something that said, "You're mine and I'm yours." That summer, I got a chance to make some extra money. A friend lined up a 3-week job hauling hay an hour out of town. It was tough, hot, dusty, and exhausting, but every time I wiped sweat from my brow, I thought of Leah. I called her every night from a beat-up payphone by the bunkhouse. Her voice came through the static, soft and sweet. "Miss you," she'd say. And I'd grin like an idiot, counting down the days until I could come home to her. But what I didn't know was that my mother was counting down too, for a completely different reason. When I finally rolled back into Harriston, my old truck clanking down Main Street, I felt proud, lighter than I had in weeks. I had just enough to open a savings account, maybe even take Leah somewhere nice. I went straight to her place first. It was a little shotgun house, paint peeling off the sides, but the flowers she planted were blooming, like something out of a dream. I knocked. Her mom answered, tight-lipped, like she'd just bitten into something sour. "She's not here, Alden," she said, barely looking at me. "You should talk to your family." My stomach dropped. I jumped in my truck, dust flying behind me, and drove home, only to walk straight into a mess. My mom, Margaret, was in the kitchen barking orders at my brother, Jordan, like she ran the army. He was leaning against the counter, tall and smug, with that grin I always hated. That's when I saw it. A ring. On his finger. Gold. Cheap. But familiar. "Where's Leah?" I asked, my voice harsher than I meant. Mom turned, wiping her hands on a towel like I was just some stray thought. "She's with Jordan now, Alden. They're engaged. It's done." The room spun. I looked at Jordan and his grin just widened, like he'd won some grand prize. My fists clenched. "What the hell are you talking about?" I asked, stepping toward him. "Calm down," Mom snapped. "Leah needed a man, not a boy chasing pipe dreams. Jordan's strong, steady, he has a future. You're just... you." Her words hit harder than a punch. I had spent my whole life trying to make her proud, fixing her porch, working double shifts, keeping the lights on when Jordan was out sweet-talking his way through life. And now he had Leah? I stormed out. Tires screeched as I peeled away and headed back to Leah's house. She was there this time, sitting on the porch swing, eyes red, face pale. "Alden," she started. "Is it true?" I asked. She nodded, wringing her hands like she could twist the guilt out of them. "Your mom, she told me you'd never be enough, that Jordan could take care of me." I just stood there, cold and hollow. "You could have waited." "3 damn weeks," I said. "You could have called." Tears spilled from her eyes. "I didn't know what to do," she whispered. I laughed bitterly, but it didn't sound like me. It sounded like someone who'd just been gutted. Part of me wanted to hold her, just take her in my arms and forget everything, but the other part, the part that saw Jordan smirk and heard my mom's voice, knew it was over. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't say a word, just turned around and walked away. Her sobs faded behind me. That night I sat in my childhood room staring at the photos on the wall. Me and Jordan fishing, family picnics, Mom's smile. It all felt like a lie. I wasn't part of that family anymore. I was the backup plan, the second choice, the spare. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I stuffed some clothes and my toothbrush into a duffel bag, grabbed the last $50 from my hay hauling job, and walked downstairs. Mom was knitting like nothing had happened. "Where are you going?" she asked, not even looking up. "Anywhere but here," I said. She didn't stop me. Jordan wasn't around, probably off celebrating. I got in my truck and drove, watched. The only home I'd ever known shrink in the rearview mirror. I didn't know where I was headed. I just knew I wasn't letting them break me again. That was the day I lost everything and decided to build something they could never touch. Leaving her felt like peeling off skin that didn't fit anymore. I drove until my gas tank hit empty and landed in a city called East. It was loud, crowded, overwhelming, nothing like the quiet fields I came from. But it was new, and I needed new. I had $50, a duffel bag, and a fire in my chest that kept me going. The first few nights I slept in my truck behind a diner where the cooks didn't mind, as long as I was gone by morning. I'd wash my face in gas station sinks, cold water snapping me back to life. I needed a job, fast. I walked into every store, every warehouse, every loading dock with a help wanted sign. My boots were dusty, my jeans faded. Most people just glanced at me and said, "We'll call you." But they never did. Finally, I landed a job at a warehouse loading crates, $10 an hour. Brutal work. My arms burned after the first shift, sweat pouring into my eyes as I hauled boxes of car parts or whatever else came in. The foreman, Rick, had a gravelly voice and zero patience, but he didn't care where I came from. As long as I showed up and pulled my weight, I had a place. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. Rick, the warehouse foreman, barked orders like it was his life's mission. "Move it, new kid!" He'd yell, and I'd grit my teeth and picture Jordan's smug face every time I felt like giving up. I wasn't strong like Jordan, at least not yet, but I wasn't about to let that stop me. Nights were the hardest. I crashed at a rundown motel I could barely afford. The walls were so thin, I could hear the guy next door coughing like he was dying. I'd lie there, staring at water stains on the ceiling, thinking about Leah. Her face, her laugh, they haunted me. Sometimes I'd hear my mom's voice echoing in my head. "You're just you." I'd roll over and punch my pillow, trying to shut it all out. No time for self-pity. I had work to do. One day on my way out of the warehouse, I noticed a flyer taped to a light pole. Night classes. Learn a trade. Build a future. It was for the local community college just a few blocks away. I'd never been much for school. I barely scraped by in high school. But that word, future, hit different. I signed up for a basic computer class, figuring it couldn't hurt. That. First night, I sat in a room full of tired people like me, worn down, quiet, trying to make a change. The teacher, Mr. Hayes, was a wiry guy with glasses always slipping down his nose. "You don't need to be smart," he told us. "You just need to show up." That I could do. That's where I met Sierra. She sat in the back, typing like it was second nature. She had short brown hair, freckles scattered across her nose, and a smile that didn't feel fake. We got paired up for some assignment, something simple like making a spreadsheet, and I fumbled through it, muttering under my breath. "Relax," she said, leaning over to help. "It's not brain surgery." Her fingers flew across the keyboard, fixing my mess in seconds. I just stared, kind of stunned. After class, we started grabbing coffee from the diner across the street. Black for me, cream and sugar for her. She told me she grew up in Easton, worked a cashier job, but didn't want to be stuck behind a register forever. "What about you?" she asked. I just shrugged. "I'm figuring it out." She nodded like she got it. We started talking more, after class, in between shifts, late nights over coffee. She had a way of making me forget the weight I was carrying. Work got easier too. Rick, the foreman, even stopped yelling so much. One day he clapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're not half bad, kid." I saved up enough to leave the motel and get a tiny apartment. It had peeling paint, a mattress on the floor, and no furniture, but it was mine. Sierra came over one night with pizza and laughed at the empty room. "You seriously need to buy a chair," she joked, sitting cross-legged on the carpet. We ate. Straight from the box, grease on our fingers, and for the first time in a long time, I felt okay. Not in love, at least not yet. But there was a crack of light in the dark. Then came the break. A guy at work mentioned his cousin's startup needed help. Something techie, apps or gadgets I didn't really know. But they were looking for grown-ups who worked hard. So I showed up in my cleanest shirt, palms sweating, and met this skinny guy in a hoodie named Tim. He asked me what I could do. I said, "Anything. Just teach me." And that was enough. He hired me on the spot, as an assistant. I ran errands, hauled gear, did whatever they needed. It was a step up from the warehouse, and I was finally close to something. More. I watched the team work, watched them code, argue, problem solve. I asked questions, took notes on napkins, and soaked it all in. By the end of that first year in Easton, I wasn't the same guy who left Harriston. My hands were still rough from labor, but now I had a few $100 in the bank. I had Sierra, not mine exactly, but there, solid, constant, like a heartbeat. One night walking her home, she slipped her hand into mine like it was nothing. I froze for a second, then held on. "You're doing good, Alden," she said, looking up at me. "Don't stop." I didn't plan to. I'd already lost everything once. I wasn't about to let it happen again. But walking back to my place that night, with the city lights humming around me, I felt something stir in my gut. Like, the real story was just beginning, and I was finally ready to write it. And that's how it started, me climbing, one sweaty step at a time. The company grew fast. We hit it big with college kids first, then offices, and eventually we went overseas. I worked late, slept less, and honestly, I loved every minute of it. Sierra was there through it all. We'd been dating for a year when I asked her to move in. Nothing fancy, just my little apartment with a couch instead of a real bed. She said yes, walked in carrying a box of books and a coffee pot, smiling like we'd already won. A year later, I proposed. No grand scene. Just us out on the fire escape, city lights flickering below. The ring took me 6 months to save for. She cried, nodded. That was it. We got married at City Hall. She wore a white dress she found on sale. I wore a suit that pinched at the shoulders. No big crowd, no drama, just a couple of co-workers and her sister taking pictures. I liked it like that. Simple. Quiet. Soon after, she got pregnant. 9 months later, we had Maya, tiny, loud, and already dotted with Sierra's freckles. 2 years after that, we had Eli, chubby cheeks and little fists that never stopped moving. I'd come home bone-tired, and those two would climb all over me, giggling. Just like that, the weight of the day would lift. By then, I was CEO. Yeah, Alden. From Harriston. The kid who used to stack lumber now running a company worth millions. Tim, my co-founder, had stepped back to work on code and the board picked me to lead. But I didn't flaunt it. Still drove the same truck, same boots. I let Sierra handle the interviews and the fancy dinners. She was good at that stuff. Charming. People in suits with her easy laugh, while I kept things running behind the scenes. We bought a house, not a mansion, just a brick place with a yard for the kids. We didn't announce anything. We liked keeping things low-key. Felt safer that way, but the past has a way of sneaking in. Late at night, when the house was quiet and Sierra was asleep beside me, I'd see Leah's face in my mind. Hear my mom's voice, cutting, cold. Picture Jordan, all ego, flexing like he owned the world. I kept a box in the back of the closet, old. Photos. A letter from Mom I'd never opened. A picture of me and Leah at the county fair, her head resting on my shoulder. Sometimes I'd pull it out, stare for a while, then shove it back in. Sierra caught me once, asked what it was. I said, nothing. She didn't press, but her eyes told me she knew. We were happy. Me, Sierra, the kids. But I wasn't whole. Not completely. I'd built this life, brick by brick, and it was good. But there was still a hole where Harriston used to be. I didn't miss them. Not really. But I wondered, did they think about me? Did Leah regret it? Did Mom even care she lost her son? I'd push the thoughts down, lose myself in Maya's crayon drawings or Eli's baby babble. But they lingered. Then came the call. I was at my desk, papers spread out, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, Harriston area code. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Alden, said a voice. Gruff, familiar. Uncle Peter. Your dad's gone, heart attack, funeral's Saturday. My throat went dry. Dad hadn't been perfect. He mostly stood in the background while Mom called the shots, but he'd never cut me like she did. I said I'd be there and hung up, just staring at the wall. When Sierra came home with the kids trailing behind her, she knew something was off right away. What's wrong? She asked, setting Eli down. I told her, just flat, like I hadn't processed it yet. You don't have to go, she said, hand warm on my arm, but I shook my head. I do, not for Mom, not for Jordan or Leah. For Dad. Maybe. For me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up, dug, out the box again. The letter from Mom was still sealed, postmarked a year ago. I opened it. My hands were shaking. Alden, come home. We miss you. Jordan and Leah are struggling. Help us. No apology, no warmth. Just a demand. Like always, I crumpled it and threw it away. They didn't get to need me now. Friday, I packed a bag. Just a suit and a tie, nothing flashy. Sierra hugged me tight at the door. Maya clung to my leg. Be careful, Sierra said, searching my eyes. I will, I told her. As I drove away, the kids waved from the porch and I felt that old ache in my chest. Harriston was calling me back. I didn't know what I'd find, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't that broke, scared kid anymore. Whatever was waiting for me, I'd face it standing tall. The church lot was full, cars lined up like soldiers, and folks in black milled around quietly, voices hushed. I parked in the back, took a long breath, and stepped out. Heads turned. Some old neighbors, a few cousins I hadn't seen in over a decade. No one said much. To them, I was a ghost. Inside, the place was packed. The air thick with flowers and whispered prayers. I slid into a pew near the back, next to a guy I half remembered from high school. Then I saw them, up front like royalty. Mom, Jordan, and Leah. Mom's hair had gone gray, pulled into the same tight bun, her face sharp as ever. Jordan looked stuffed into his suit, bored already. Leah had faded, thinner, her eyes dulled, hands knotted in her lap. Life hadn't been gentle, but I didn't feel sorry. Not yet. Margaret Carter, my old Sunday school teacher, leaned over and whispered, They stuck you back here, huh? Typical. I gave a half smile and kept quiet. I saw Mom's eyes scan the room, but they didn't find me. Jordan muttered something to Leah. She nodded like a wind-up doll. They thought I was still nothing. A broke ghost crawling back for crumbs. Let them. The service began. The preacher droned about Dad's life, how he loved his family, worked hard, all the usual. But I barely listened. Dad had been a quiet man. Always let Mom run the show. Still, he taught me to fish. Picked me up after bike crashes. He didn't stand up for me, but he never tried to break me either. I wondered if, in the end, he'd tried to make peace. Then Uncle Peter stood up, cleared his throat, and held a folded paper in his hands. Alden, he said, his voice carrying through the room, your dad wanted you to read this. Every head turned. Whispers swirled. Mom stiffened. Jordan frowned. Leah finally looked up. I stood, my legs steady. Walked that long aisle, feeling the floorboards creak beneath my steps. Peter handed me the letter and clapped my shoulder. I looked out at the room, at faces from another lifetime. Dad's handwriting stared up at me, slanted, unmistakably his. To my boy, Alden, I read. My voice low but steady. I wasn't the father you deserved. I let things happen I shouldn't have. But I watched you from afar, heard what you made of yourself. You built a life from nothing. I'm proud. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner. My throat tightened. But I kept reading. You're stronger than I ever was. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The silence was thick. I looked up. Mom's face had gone pale. Jordan shifted in his seat, jaw tight. Leah stared at her lap. I could have stopped there, but I didn't. I brought my family with me, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Sierra, kids, come up. Footsteps echoed. Sierra walked down the aisle, Maya and Eli beside her. She wore a simple black dress, hair pulled back. The kids looked sharp. Maya in a little skirt, Eli in a too big tie. They reached me, and Sierra brushed her fingers against mine. I turned back to the crowd. This is my life, I said. This is who I became. You could have heard a pin drop. Mom's face drained of color. Jordan's jaw opened slightly like he didn't know what to say. Leah blinked like she was waking from a long sleep. I folded Dad's letter and slipped it into my jacket. That's all. We sat back down. Sierra laced her fingers through mine. Maya leaned in and whispered, "Was that okay, Daddy?" I nodded, too choked to answer. The rest of the service blurred. Hymns, prayers, a line past the casket. I didn't move. Just watched Mom twist her handkerchief, Jordan stew in silence, and Leah glance at me when she thought I wouldn't notice. When it ended, the rain had finally come. People hurried out, umbrellas snapping open. I stood under the awning with Sierra, the kids laughing at a puddle. I figured that was it. I'd said my part. Time to go. But then I saw them, Mom, Jordan, and Leah, cutting through. The crowd, coming right for me. My heart knocked against my ribs. I squared my shoulders. Whatever they had to say, I was ready. The rain tapped a slow rhythm on the roof above. Sierra stayed close. The kids kicked water around a drain. Mom got to me first. Her dress soaked at the hem, her eyes sharp like always. "You should have told us you were coming," she said. Not a hello, just that tone, like I'd interrupted her schedule. Jordan stood behind her, arms crossed. Leah lingered, holding an umbrella like a shield. "I did tell you," I said evenly. "Didn't think you'd care." Mom's mouth twitched. "Of course we care. Your family." She glanced at Sierra, at the kids, then back at me like she was trying to fit me into a picture that didn't make sense anymore. "What's all this? The suit, the wife, the children." I let the question hang in the rain. Sierra stepped closer, hand firm on my arm. "This is my life," I said. "Built it myself, no thanks to any of you." Jordan snorted, breaking his silence. "What's that supposed to mean? You show up after 12 years reading Dad's letter like you're some hero? You think you're better than us?" His voice still had that bite, that edge he used to keep me small. "Where were you when I needed you?" I said, meeting his stare. "You took everything. I was out in the cold while you got handed the keys." He flinched, barely. But I saw it. Mom jumped. "And that's not fair, Alden. We did what we had to for Leah, for the family. You were chasing dreams." "No," I said, my voice steady. "You stepped on me, Mom. You pushed him to it. You told Leah I'd never be enough. You handed her over like I was trash. Don't dress that up and call it love." That's when Leah finally spoke. Tired cars lined the lot. People in black milled around, their voices low. I parked way in the back, took a deep breath, and stepped out. Heads turned, old neighbors, cousins I hadn't seen in years. But no one said anything. I was a ghost to them now. Inside, the air was thick with flowers and murmurs. The pews were full. I slipped into a seat near the back, next to some guy I vaguely remembered from high school. Then I saw them, Mom, Jordan, and Leah, sitting up front like they were royalty. Mom's hair was grayer now, pulled tight in that same old bun. Her face still sharp, unreadable. Jordan looked even broader, his suit straining, bored out of his mind. Leah had thinned out, eyes dull, hands folded in her lap. Time hadn't been kind, not that I felt sorry. Not yet. Mrs. Carter, my old Sunday school teacher, leaned over and whispered, "They stuck you back here, huh? Typical." Margaret. I gave a small shrug, said nothing. I felt Mom's gaze sweep the room, but she didn't spot me. Jordan said something to Leah. She nodded, blank as a doll. They thought I was nobody, a broke drifter crawling back for crumbs. Let them. The service started. The preacher droned on about Dad's life, how he worked the farm and loved his family. I barely listened. Dad had always been quiet, in Mom's shadow, but he taught me to fish. He helped me up when I crashed my bike. He never stood up for me, though, not once. I wondered if he tried at the end. Then Uncle Peter stood up, clearing his throat and holding a piece of paper. "Alden," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Your dad wanted you to read this." Heads turned. Whispers rippled. Mom's face twitched. Jordan frowned. Leah looked up. I stood. My legs were steady. The aisle felt like a mile long. Peter handed me the note, clapped my shoulder. I unfolded it. Dad's handwriting, shaky, slanted, real. "To my boy, Alden." I read, my voice low but firm. "I wasn't the father you deserved. I let things happen I shouldn't have. But I watched you from afar. I heard about your life. You made something out of nothing. And I'm proud. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner. You're stronger than I ever was. Don't let anyone tell you different." My throat tightened, but I kept reading. The room was dead quiet. When I looked up, Mom's lips were a thin line. Jordan looked like he wanted to bolt. Leah stared at her hands. I could have stopped there, but something in me refused. "I brought my family today," I said, turning to the back. "Sierra, kids, come on up," footsteps echoed. Sierra walked down the aisle, Maya and Elliot right behind her. Sierra wore a simple black dress, hair pulled back, poised as ever. The kids looked like little grown-ups. Maya in a skirt, Elliot in a tiny tie. They reached me. Sierra's hand brushed mine. I turned back to the crowd. "You could hear a pin drop," I said, voice steady. "This is my family." Mom's face went pale. Jordan's jaw dropped. Leah blinked like she was waking, up from a long dream. The whispers started up again, buzzing like flies. I folded Dad's letter and tucked it into my pocket. That's all. We walked back to our seats. Sierra laced her fingers through mine. Maya whispered, "Was that okay, Daddy?" I nodded, too choked up to speak. The rest of the service blurred by, hymns, prayers, people walking past the casket. I stayed in place. Watched Mom twist her handkerchief. Jordan scowled at the floor. Leah snuck glances at me. They didn't say a word, but I could feel it. Their world tilting, cracking. When the service ended, folks spilled outside. Rain had finally started, soft and steady. I stood under the awning, Sierra beside me, the kids kicking a pebble near the steps. I figured that was it. Then I saw them. Mom, Jordan, Leah, cutting through the crowd. My pulse quickened, but I squared up. Whatever they had to say, I was ready. The rain tapped on the church awning like a drum roll. People hurried to their cars, but I stayed put. Sierra stood close, the kids splashing in puddles a few feet away. Mom reached me first, her black dress soaked at the bottom, eyes sharp. "Alden," she said. Voice clipped like she was calling me in for supper. "You should have told us you were coming." No hello, no warmth, just her usual tone, like I'd caused trouble. Jordan loomed behind her, arms crossed. Leah hung back, umbrella in hand, looking smaller than I remembered. "I did tell you," I said, calm. "Didn't think you'd care." Mom's mouth twitched. "Of course we care. Your family." Her eyes flicked to Sierra and the kids. "What's all this?" I let the question hang. Rain filled the silence. Sierra stepped closer, her hand resting on my arm. This is my life, I said. Built it myself. No thanks to you, Jordan snorted. What's that supposed to mean? You show up after years, read Dad's letter like you're some hero? He had that same sharp edge in his voice, the one he always used to cut me down. Where? You been, huh? He snapped. You left us. I stared him down. Out in the cold, while you took everything I had. He flinched. Barely. But I saw it. Mom stepped in, waving her hand like that fixed things. That's not fair, Alden. We did what was best. For Leah. For the family. You were chasing dreams. Jordan took a step forward. I laughed, cold and sharp. No, you stepped on me. You pushed him to it. Told Leah I'd never be enough. Handed her over like I was trash. Don't act like it was noble. Leah finally spoke. Her voice small, shaky. She stepped out from under her umbrella. Alden, I didn't mean to hurt you. Your mom, she made it sound like you were gone for good, like you didn't care. Her eyes shimmered. Rain or tears, I couldn't tell. I thought about you every day. I looked at her. Really looked. The girl I had loved was still buried in there beneath the years, but it didn't soften me. You could have called, I said. Could have waited. You chose. Live with it. She looked down. Jordan clenched, his jaw. So what? You're rich now? Fancy job, pretty wife, perfect life? He snapped. You come here to rub it in? CEO, I said flat. Built it from nothing. And no, I came for Dad. You're the ones who made it about me. Mom's face twitched again. She tried a smile. Well, she said, voice fake sweet. That's impressive. We always knew you had it in you. Right, Jordan? He grunted. Maybe you could help us out. Jordan lost his job. The farm's struggling. Family helps family. There it was. The ask. That old trick. Turn the knife. Offer a handshake. I saw red. Her voice from years ago echoed. You're just you. Jordan slipping that ring on Leah's finger. Leah walking away. I took a long breath and let it out slow. You didn't help me, I said. When I was sleeping in my truck, eating gas station sandwiches. Where were you then? Oh, right. Writing letters after you'd already cut me loose. Alden, no, I cut her off. You made your choices. I made mine. We're done. I turned. Nodded to Sierra. She called the kids. Maya and Elliot ran over, laughing, oblivious. Let's go, I said. We walked toward the truck. Mom called after me. Alden, wait, we're sorry, okay? We didn't know. I kept walking. Rain soaked my suit. Sierra's hand in mine. Jordan shouted something, a curse maybe, but it blurred into the storm. Leah stayed quiet. I didn't look back. The truck door closed behind us. Maya giggled about her wet socks. Elliot asked if we could get burgers. Sierra squeezed my knee, said nothing, just let me breathe. In the rear view, I saw them standing there. Mom, Jordan, Leah, small, soggy, and lost. They looked like the rain, had washed off whatever power they once had over me. I didn't feel good about it, not happy, not angry, just free. Maya piped up from the back. Were those people mad at you? I smiled. Just surprised, kiddo. It's been a while. She nodded and went back to chatting with Elliot. Sierra glanced at me. You okay? Yeah, I said. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. She smiled, a small, real smile, and set her mug down. That's that, she said, leaning into me. We sat there for a while, the TV flickering with some late-night show we didn't even bother watching. I felt the last tight knot inside me slowly unwind. I'd faced them, stood tall, and walked away. It was over. The next morning, I was up early, habit more than anything. The kids were still asleep, and the house was quiet except for the coffee pot gurgling in the kitchen. I went to the closet and dug out that old box I'd kept for way too long. Photos spilled out, me and Jordan with fishing poles, Mom at a picnic, Leah laughing at the fair. I flipped through them, bracing for the sting, but it never came. Just faded memories like the worn paper. Then I saw the crumpled letter from Mom, the one I'd tossed back in Harriston. I'd grabbed it before we left and shoved it in my pocket. Why, I don't know. I smoothed it out and read it again. Come home. We miss you. Help us. Same old song. But there was something else, tucked inside the envelope. A smaller note I'd missed. Dad's handwriting, shaky and faint, like a tribute. Alden, I left you the old watch. It's not much, but it's yours. I should have given you more. Forgive me. My breath caught. The watch, beat up silver, the one he'd worn every day. I never saw it at the funeral. Guess Mom kept it hidden, or maybe Dad did. I sat there turning the note over in my hands. Dad hadn't fought for me when he was alive, but he tried in the end. It wasn't enough to fix everything, but it was something. I tucked the note back in the envelope and slid the box under the bed, out of sight, not gone. Maybe someday I'd get the watch. Maybe not. Didn't really matter right now. Sierra came, down with messy hair, a loose rope holding it back. You're up early, she said, pouring coffee. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, I said, and this time, it was true. Want to take the kids to the park later? She grinned. Only if you push the swings. Deal. That afternoon, we went to the park down the street. The sun was breaking through the clouds. Maya squealed as I pushed her high, Elliot toddled after a butterfly, and Sierra laughed sitting. On a bench, I caught my reflection in a puddle, older, steadier. A man who'd made it. Harriston was miles behind me now, a shadow I didn't have to chase anymore. I'd built this family, this home, this life, and it was enough. Driving back, the kids sang off-key in the back seat. I glanced in the rearview mirror. They were my future. Not that town, not those people. I smiled, small, real, and turned up the radio. The road ahead was clear, and I was good with that. So that's my story, how I lost it all, built it back, and found my way. Took a lot of miles and a few scars to get here, but I'd do it all again for what I've got now. What about you? Ever had to walk away from something or someone to find what's real?